America. Welcome to RGN, the least pretentious name in news, the regular guy news, and we got a new president, baby. Let's talk. Wow. All right. Welcome to RGN. A lot to say. Too much to say. In the words of Dave Matthews, too much to say. I eat too much. Also, something else Dave Matthews said that's true for me. But listen, I'm gonna skip the whole intro here. Okay, you get it. Subscribe on give us 5 stars. Subscribe. Tell a friend about the show. You get it. We have a new president-elect of the United States of America as of like an hour ago. Joe Biden, Joseph Q. Biden. That's not his middle name, but he is a junior, which I just learned. He is Joseph Biden Jr. There's something where something becomes official that we like to give our full official name, Joseph Biden Jr. Let's get into it. Erin, I'm not even giving you your regular intro. Let's just get into it.
What's up,
Erin
what's up,
Finnerty,
what's up, what's up, what's up? I'm here. I'm at Biden's Hollywood headquarters.
Yes. Anyway, yeah, you're still at your place.
It's my house.
Hilarious thing. I've been watching the news like a lunatic. It's thrown off my whole life cycle. Like it's
fractured my mind, actually.
Life cycle makes it sound like I'm like a butterfly. You know what I mean? Like
or like a cicada.
That felt demeaning to who I am. Okay, I'm bigger than just that.
Don't demean yourself on a day like today.
Absolutely, you can't. But listen. I've been watching Glued. Skip the gym 2 days in a row, which is like unheard of for me because my
haven't hit the Peloton in a week.
Because I was I was staying up to like 4 a.m. to watch this.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to go back to the gym. First day back to the gym this morning. They called the election while I'm in the gym.
You know what? I called Dan when we got the news, and he didn't answer, and I said he's at the gym.
Oh, man. But it was cool because I had CNN on the phone going, and I was working out, and it was helping me pump. Here's the deal. Everybody, if you don't know, there's just so much to say. I literally don't even know what is worthy of beginning. And I'm not even sure. That's part of the regular guy news, like how I'm and Erin, you as well. Like how do you deal with this delicate situation? Because like it's not even like we're remotely out of the woods, but there's a lot to celebrate. There's a lot to, I don't want to say not celebrate, but there's a lot to take in. We gained a lot of information, and scientifically, there's no such thing as too much information. And we have a lot of information now about this country. We've been waiting these past 4 years to be like, what is this country now? We had a major curveball of a presidency. And ultimately, whether you like it or not, this country said no. They said no to this kind of change. Okay? And I'm putting it lightly. I don't know why I'm being democratic or diplomatic about it because I'm not
no fucking thanks for no more.
No thank you.
In record numbers. No thanks.
Joe Biden did exactly how he from my predictions, I was right in a lot of ways, wrong in a little bit. I was right. I knew he would take back the entire blue wall, Erin, thanks to Pat F. in Michigan and the Michiganders.
Many thanks to Pat F. in Commerce Township, Michigan.
Michigan came out. Joe Biden won by bigger margins than than Trump did. I think, in Michigan, he won Wisconsin, he won back, obviously, Pennsylvania, which took it, and then also took Arizona and Georgia, which is insane.
That's the wild card.
It's insane because it went for Clinton, and so electorally, Joe Biden exceeded my expectations.
Same.
Okay? Electorally exceeded my expectations. But the margins of votes, Trump did way better than I expected. Just because there was so much early voting and I felt like and so I was right, is that the early vote was a referendum on Trump. I equated that to Yelp. I was like, the Yelp and Yelp, when you go to a restaurant that sucks or the service is bad, you're more likely to write on that on Yelp. Than you are.
I mean, sometimes you go to like if someone writes a negative review and you look at their profile, it's all negative reviews because people only share the
Right.
negative experience.
But regardless, I only say that because, listen, if you're looking for stats and demographics, we're barely going to talk about that. It's not what we do here. Go. You know where to go for that. You'll find the stats. You'll find the math guys. We got too much fucking pizzazz for that, okay? Even though you guys know I got 100 on a Math 3 New York State Regents exam. Everyone knows that. But but all that is to say that the only reason I bring that up first is to say that Joe Biden, in my mind, had a clear, decisive victory here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're not done yet at the time of recording. They haven't called the remaining states, so he could well exceed the 270.
Well, he's going to win. He has 273 right now, technically, depending on where you look. But he's going to end up with 306, exactly Trump's electoral votes in 2016. And let's focus on a couple. Look, we can talk about what Trump's going to do, and I think we should. But I think we should talk more about this moment because truthfully, fuck him. You know?
Yeah, fuck him.
Fuck him.
Enough.
He lost. Okay?
No.
And but that does not mean fuck you if you voted for him. It's not what I'm saying. I think that people do feel that way, and I understand. I understand how you would feel that way. I just think here's my thought. The first thought I had about this was I was in the gym. And everything relates to the gym.
Where you do your most of your thinking.
And most of my ogling of the muscles, the muscles. By the way, I'm becoming like a perfect circle. It's insane. I'm the most Guido guy in LA. There's no question. But so I'm the most Queens guy in LA. I'm the king.
Yeah, well, I'll give you that.
Except Kevin James, but he's in Long Island, actually, ironically. Okay, but here's the thing. My first thought, girl in my gym, okay? We find out the election mid-class. They're like, Joe Biden. They called it for Joe Biden. And a woman in my class, hysterical crying, people are hugging, you know, and it immediately dawned on me that like how I feel and you know, take it or leave it, feel this way or not, about the Trump presidency and the Trump voter, which is like, you can vote for Trump. You could agree with some of the policies. You could be, I'm a lifelong Republican, blah, 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 whatever. But the Trump presidency undeniably was painful for millions and millions of Americans. His rhetoric hurt people. And I think there was this thing where you speak to some people who are like, yeah, you know, look, I wish you would tweet less also. That's diminishing what he did.
Right.
He was enabling, emboldening hate speech. Right?
Yes, a lot of hate.
People were not feeling welcome in their own country, you know?
Yeah.
We're not feeling like real Americans. I mean, look, you could go through countless clips of this guy. He would tell people who were born in America to go back to their countries. Like, I mean, we don't need to go through the clips. You heard them, okay? Okay? And there's only clips like this on one side, okay? There's only bad people on one side here, okay? And so the presidency was painful. It was painful for people. And so if you're someone who basked in that pain, then fuck you. That's my thought.
Absolutely.
That's my thought. If you're someone who was a Trump voter because you were like, you know what? Like, people need to hear it, man. And, like, you were like, look at these softies. People, then fuck you. If you voted for him because you're hardcore fiscally conservative, you thought his policies were better for you, then we can talk. I would say there's some problems there as well because of your priorities. You know?
Yeah.
I would say your priorities are a little skewed in my mind. But if you were diminishing the value of people feeling that pain, then truly fuck off and reevaluate yourself. Look in the mirror, get help. There's a reason people are celebrating in the streets. It's because they feel relief. They feel like they can go about their lives. That's such a low bar. People are like, now I can breathe. Right? Now I can go about my day. I can go about my life knowing that, like, the elector of my land, the highest seat in the land of my house is not held by someone who doesn't want me here, who doesn't see me as valid.
Right.
So that's where I come down on this disgusting 4 years nightmare that we've had in this country, which is if you did not see the pain of other people, first off, do that for your personal relationships. You know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm.
is that like if someone feels pain, whether you agree with it or not, the pain is there, so you can ignore it, do whatever you want. There's pain, and if you felt like that was not valid, then you can fuck off. You don't have to listen to my podcast. You don't have to be a fan of what I do. Then you can
Don't
go
want
find
it.
your pockets of this
Yeah.
world.
There's a
And you,
lot of pockets that are for you, and
right.
this isn't one of them.
Erin, sorry, I steamrolling you here because I just
That's
like
okay.
I had this moment where I was like, that is it. That
That's
is
it.
it. It's like for
That's the
me, it's
difference. That's the difference.
right. Is that if you're basking in that, doesn't mean you can't disagree with it. Think people are being overly sensitive at moments. We're talking about the legit hate crimes on the rise. You know, we're talking about the kind of clips and quotes that we have from this president. There's no excuse for it, and to think that there's no consequences to that, and that people are gonna feel good about that, and it's good. He's just a straight talker. Blah blah blah. That's the kind of straight talk I don't need. You know,
Yeah. I don't want it.
Erin, how do you feel on the election of Joe Biden?
I feel great, Dan. I feel great. I feel like it's a new day. People are in the streets celebrating like it's a huge party. People are banging pots and pans outside of their house in Philly. Like
Yeah,
it's it's amazing. I just think, you know, in our lifetime we've never had a president. It's just like no one was in the streets banging, pots and
right.
pans together when Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, like it just didn't happen because we never felt this bad or like this scared or, you know, this negative about the president. Like even when things were bad, like it was never like this, but it's a whole new day. Democracy worked. The election worked. People turned out in like record numbers for Joe. Like
There was
I
kind of a
couldn't be happier.
right. There was like a difference between the like George Bush years and the
Yes.
Trump years, where it was like, hey, maybe Bush had this, and look, I'm not defending George Bush by any means, but maybe he
Of
had a
course not.
blind eye towards the fact that his policies were enable systemic racism and blah blah blah, right? But then you have
Hmm.
this, which is just
Right.
open. It was open hatred, you know.
Open
And
racism and enabling like hate groups and hate speech and stuff. And it just like was scary. Whereas, like, with George Bush, I was a lot younger in those years, but I never felt like scared. Like, what is he going to do next? Or, you know, he's not like Trump's,
he felt like an actual
talent, like
patriot.
not condemning. Yes, exactly, exactly. But Trump just feels like I don't even know, like a menace, and you never know what he's going to do next. And he has no experience whatsoever. He's not qualified for the job, and so you don't know what kind of danger that puts you in. So the fact that that period is over, I think, is why people are in the streets
Right.
celebrating, and I am
Um.
too.
All right. So I have a friend that I grew. I told the story. I'll recap it. If you want to hear it in more depth, listen to
Mhm.
the last episode. But I grew up. There's a guy who grew up on my street. Literally, a guy I grew up with, played sports with, hung out with this dude, grew up on the same exact block. You right? And he's a
Yep.
Trump supporter, right? And so he posted a lot of stuff that I completely disagree with. I found something he posted to be really insensitive and missed the mark. Okay, I was going to write. I literally wrote in the comment. I was responding to it, being like, "You're way off the mark here," and then it was kind of like, I was impulsive there. Before I hit
Right.
send, deleted it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then I wrote him a private message. I was like, why am I going to do this publicly? It's going to be different. I wrote him a private message being like, I don't disagree. I disagree with what you're saying here. Tell me exactly how you think, blah, blah, blah. I'm not even getting exactly into the issue, but
Right.
okay. So I said, how do you see it this way? You're missing this factor of it, and I deleted that before I sent that. Okay. And then I
Yeah.
wrote him a message being like, hey, would you like to come on my podcast? I see you have completely opposing political views to me, and I find that really interesting because we had the same exact upbringing. My last guest on this podcast was someone who I went to
Mhm.
elementary school with, and he has really interesting beliefs, and I find that it makes it more
Yeah.
personal, it makes it more localized. So I said to him, "Hey, would you like to come on the podcast?" Okay, because I'm like, oh, well, if we speak face to face, maybe it'll be more civil, you know. And I'm trying to understand other people's views and see how they respond to the blind spots that I see, you know. His response
Mm-hmm.
was, I can't come on. It had to do with his job. You know, he's like, I can't come
Okay.
on, but I would love to. That sounds awesome. Would love to speak to you. And then, right in the first breath of his comment to me was, he goes, hey, how are you, man? How's it going? I see what you've been up to. It's so awesome. I was talking to my friend the other day about how I really admire all the stuff you do. And he was like,
Uh-huh.
and I also drove by your parents' house recently. And he's like, I see
Yeah.
that there were other children outside. And he's like, your parents must have moved. Where are they? How are they? I always loved them. And he's like, here's my number. I still live in Long Island. If your parents need anything, here's my number. Okay?
Yeah.
Then we talked a little bit about wrestling. My point, right? So, like, my point is ultimately, this guy is not Trump. That's what I said. He's
Yeah.
not Trump. He has different views than I do. But what do I gain from telling this guy to fuck off? What do I gain there? Nothing.
Right.
You know? And then my other point is, feel however you want to feel about that story. I think that's a big problem with podcasting and social media now. It's like, I just told you a story. You draw your own conclusion from that. Take that
Right.
information. I don't need to tell you, here's why. I don't need to do the Bill Maher. Like, I don't need to be like the end of new rules. Like, and here's how you should feel. I don't need to tell you
Yeah.
to feel. That's just that's a story about me interacting with someone. I had 3 different ways I could have went about it.
Right.
And I ultimately went a different route. I chose option 3, and it netted a completely different result than I expected. You know,
Right. Right. Yeah.
so
And I
take
mean,
that as you will.
right. I mean, I had that experience when I was working at the polls, right? Like, Trump
Oh
is
yeah,
a
Erin,
villain.
5 days at the poll. By the way, thank you for your
Yes.
service.
Oh, thank you
Legitimately,
so
that's
much,
awesome.
Dan.
Those were long hours you were working,
Yeah.
and you took off time from your other job to work that
Yes.
job.
Mm-hmm.
Probably making less money to work at the
Yeah.
polls,
Yeah.
and so yeah, so that's amazing.
Thank you. It was my pleasure to do it. Long hours. I was there. I put in 53 hours in 5 days. I worked
Wow.
14 hours on election day, and then I went right to Dan's house when it was done to watch the returns. So the last week has taken its toll on me mentally, but it's fine, and I'm really happy. But like your story, when I was
Yeah.
at the polls, Trump is a villain to me, right? He's like an
Right.
evil ghoul. But what I realized is that I was helping people vote, old people, people who don't speak the language, just helping people check in. And I checked in this guy, he had on a Trump hat,
Right.
which is not really kosher at the polls, but we're not going to stop you.
Right.
And he was so nice to me and friendly. And I was like, you know what? Like, we have different beliefs, but these people are nice, and I'm here to help them cast their ballots. So I don't know. I do with that what you will, but I I just
Right. We
I
give you the
disagree, but I
information.
was I was like, oh, that was a really nice guy, even though his hat signifies that
Yeah.
he's
Now you could make the
supports this.
argument that some of the greatest villains of all time are just misguided as opposed to evil. Magneto comes to mind, for example. Magneto
Yeah,
was in the Holocaust.
right.
The first scene in the X-Men movie, that's
Uh-huh.
different in the books, and they have all different origin stories and blah blah blah, is him being separated from his mother in a
Right.
concentration camp, and him reaching out, and him realizing, oh, I bent the fence because he could control
Uh-huh.
metal. He lost his mother, and he's like, oh well, then people start having powers in society. I'm going X-Men, and he'd be treated differently, like it's a
Right.
disability. Now it turns out in this case it's an ability and causes him to be able to kill humans very easily.
Yeah.
And so interesting enough, like, so you can argue from some perspective that Magneto's actions are justified, right?
Mhm.
Why would he have any faith in humanity? So
Right.
there is a danger in being misguided as well. I completely see that. Like, there's a danger in, like, oh, he's really nice, but he's a Trump supporter. But on his house, the sign says, no more bullshit.
Right.
Right? And you're like,
Right.
is that the rhetoric we want in this country? Like,
Yeah.
do we realize how easy it is to slip into, like fascism. You know, the example I give is like you have to look at Nazi Germany, and you have to think about when I was in Nazi Germany. Okay, you see concentration camps. They're less than a mile from people's houses. We're talking about suburban people who, on record, said you could smell gas chambers, and they were just going about their lives
A
with a
lot of
blind
good
spot.
Germans. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You cannot ignore that fact. So you
Right.
can be really misguided to the point of evil while not inherently being a bad person. And
Right.
that's the problem with supporting Donald Trump, is because now you're doing it head on. Now you're doing it knowingly.
Yeah.
And we could celebrate all we want. We have Joe Biden and we have this COVID-19, but we have this pandemic. But Donald Trump would have won, no question, without the pandemic. The pandemic gave Joe Biden this election, I think.
Yeah.
I guess I can't prove that, but these margins, Donald Trump, after all the things he did over these years, is losing by like 5 to 6 million votes.
Right.
In a country with I actually don't know how many people we have, but probably,
I think it's like
I
in
don't
the
know,
50
500 million?
50 million or something like that.
No, no, because
I'm 500 million.
500 million makes sense, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because
I mean, we're in a census year, so we'll know
Yeah.
the exact number soon. But right now, we're at 328.2 million people.
But the total people who vote, like the electorate, is like, that's like what, 300? It looks like that's like 160 million or something like that, 170 million, and so basically half those people voted for Trump. You know.
I know.
So it's not a deal breaker. Like, his behavior is not a deal breaker. And not only is it not a deal breaker, it looks as if, and I have a friend who did this, a Republican friend. People were voting against Donald Trump and then read down the rest of the ticket. And that's why you're seeing the Senate and the House underperforming. You know?
Well, and that's why, Trump's argument that the election is rigged or being stolen does not hold any water at all, because look at the rest of the contests that were on the ballot this year.
Right. Now, the interesting thing about Trump is, like, you just have to thank God a little bit if you believe in God, which I'm on record as saying I don't. You know that. Let's actually lock that in.
Locked in.
I could change my mind. I don't know. Who knows?
This is RGN, baby.
Not anything's locked in. Yeah. Let's just talk about Donald Trump's strategy for getting elected. Okay?
What strategy? What strategy?
Because, I mean,
holy shit.
I was thinking about this. Like, okay, so, first off, he shits on John McCain for years. Loses Arizona. Mm-hmm. Not only does he lose Arizona, he has John McCain's widow campaigning around the country for Biden. Okay?
Yes.
His campaign managers apparently were begging him to speak to her. Okay? And try to, right? He said no. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
His strategy was to choose no plan for the pandemic. Like, have no plan for the pandemic, right?
No plan.
There was no plan, and then ignore it, hold rallies, and literally get his whole White House sick.
Ignore it. Continue to say it's going to go away. 6 months, it's going to go away. It's going to disappear. No end in sight to this argument. There's no plan, no action, or anything.
Now, most interestingly, he was so scared of losing. He was so deeply unconfident in his bones, right?
Of course.
That he knew he was going to lose, that he told his voters, essentially, not to vote. He said, don't vote by mail. The mail is rigged. I mean, literally, it's in Magic the Gathering, we call this a nombo.
This was a nombo?
It's a non-combo. It's working against your own interests.
I hear you. Dan, I can't hear you.
You hear me now?
Okay, there you are.
Oh, did you press a button?
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's, all
I
right. It's
missed
like,
the
we're all
nombo.
excited today.
Yeah.
It's a nombo. It's a non-combo. It's you
Oh, it's a
working against
non-combo.
your own synergies, your own
Hmm.
self-interest.
Yeah.
So if you're
Yeah, that
part of
was a
your
real
elect,
nombo.
so his logic was, all right, Republicans like to come to the polls, but he
Hmm.
had no interest in expanding that tent at all into people who take COVID seriously.
Right. I know. So don't vote. Only vote in person if that's something you're willing to do. And then, in an interesting twist, leave it to all the Democrats to vote, have the GOP make it so that those votes can't be counted until last. So we
Right.
get 3 days of thrilling TV, great ratings that
Right.
end in a Trump loss.
It's amazing. It's like he's so stubborn that all he had to do was course correct on COVID. Be like, I got it wrong because this is a new thing. It's a new. I got it wrong. Three. Let's give him 5 months in. He could have course corrected, and I think win the
Right.
election.
Yeah, because that would have fallen like right before the RNC. Like,
I'll even do you one better, Erin. I
yeah.
think when he got COVID, if he changed his attitude, people
Mm-hmm.
would have. I think people would. The Republican Party would have given him the benefit. They'd be like, "Thank God that was the one thing about him I couldn't stand. The racism, and that didn't bother
I
me."
can handle that.
Right.
Nothing
I
new.
think if they were like, you know what, you got to wear the masks, everybody, because you don't want this. Like what Chris Christie did. If he did
Right.
exactly what Chris Christie did, where he was like, "I fucked up not wearing the mask. Now I see it's a real disease. I was trying to save the economy for you people." Easy speech. Easy. Wear the masks. They help. Let's socially distance, but let's keep the economy going. Just do it safe, okay? Bring
Right.
the bars outside. Get the heat lamps, right? You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh, honestly, I'm
Taking
just
it
spitballing
seriously,
that.
like at all. But from the moment he had it, like he went out in the fucking SUV with the Secret Service. People didn't like that. He got done. He's like, I can beat this thing. Anyone can beat this. It's not that serious. There was no real. He wasn't in reality even after getting COVID. He just did
Right.
not,
He
like you said, a
completely
simple course
ignored
correction on the
stats. Like
right.
Dr.
Well,
Fauci was popular. He's popular.
yeah. Well,
Like
Trump
some people.
decided that Fauci's his enemy. So, period. End of story. There's no go backs
Right. Why
with
don't you
Trump.
just bring Fauci? Like, just bring. Like, there was easy moves to be made here. I
I
mean,
know.
he's the worst. He's so weirdly like a great politician in a way, but also actually the reality of him is he's a terrible politician. He's a great. He was a great outsider, right? But when he became a politician, is when everyone smelled bullshit. Like then
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Now, okay, let's focus less on Trump. Actually, okay,
Great.
I want to
I'd
move
love to
on.
never focus on Trump again.
Yeah, I know. But it is, the Tuesday night. This is the last thing I'll say. You were at my
Yeah.
house,
Yeah.
and Trump was doing great in the
Mm-hmm.
polls, and
Mm-hmm.
and they warned us. I mean, I'm a news junkie. They told us
Yeah.
there's gonna be
This
this
is
red wave.
exactly what happened. Yeah.
Right, exactly, and then
It's
they're gonna.
exactly what happened. And the way it shook out was exactly how the Biden campaign predicted it. It was not a shock.
Right, exactly. I mean, so okay, so why not? Okay, what was I saying?
Tuesday night,
Oh,
I
Tuesday night.
was over
And Tuesday
watching
night, I literally
returns.
had a moment where I was like, "Oh, Trump's gonna win," because of 2016. Like, I would have believed that fact if there wasn't
Yeah.
2016. But we all felt the. I was like, I can't, it's 4 years later. This is the moment. The pressure was so high,
Yeah.
and I
And
was
people
like,
didn't want to get hurt again.
right.
Like,
And as a man, I shield myself from emotions. I don't know if that's. I think that's a generally male thing. I'm sure
yes.
many women do it, but
Mm,
whatever. We're taught like not to feel things or whatever.
right. Yeah.
And man, when I had to face the fact that he might be the president for 4 more years, I literally was like, I don't know. I hit a break. I was like, I don't know if I can handle this. I was like, I literally don't know what I'm gonna do. I cannot deal with it. It's so exhausting.
I know.
You know?
Well, I'm like blindly, I'm always optimistic
Yeah.
and maybe naive. So like
Yeah.
I'm ready to get my feelings hurt at that cost, but I never thought that he would get elected again. I refuse to believe it. So I was ready to get my feelings hurt, but I just did not think that it was going to happen.
Well, Erin, I agree with you. I felt the same way. Like I was not sweating. I was like, Joe Biden's going to win. I said it on here.
Cynical about it at all. I knew.
I agree and felt the same way, except for when you started seeing all the votes he got, and it can't be discredited. He brought out the vote. Like, that's just true.
Well, I sent Dan a list earlier in this whole process, and it was right when Biden crossed the threshold of most votes ever received. And the way it ultimately shook out, it was like, Barack 08, Barack 12, and then both Trump 2020 and Biden 2020 topped the lists now. So
right. Yeah, Trump's got the second amount of votes ever, and that's all turnout based, All right, but let's talk about Joe Biden. Let's talk about the implications of this election, because this is a spectacular day for America for so many reasons. Okay, and not even reasons. This is a beautiful day in America. It's a beautiful day in America. It's a beautiful day in the American neighborhood. But there's a lot of unspoken stuff, and that's, again, a lot of that is the cloud of Trump. He's not conceding, so that's going to be a huge story, obviously, but fuck him, whatever. Yeah, that's what he's going to do.
Litigate all you want. There's nothing. There's no evidence. His people are distancing themselves.
Yeah, who cares? Just give him Arizona. Fine. You have Arizona. You still lose.
Arizona.
You still lose. I mean, what are you going to do? He's going to debate Wisconsin? Fine. Take Wisconsin. You still lose.
You can do a recount on all 50 states. Every single pundit expert has said a recount will recover maybe a couple dozen to maybe 1,000 votes based on human error. But at this point, it's a foregone conclusion. It's pointless.
Yeah. Trump, take my vote. You got it. Take it.
We got a couple California votes we can have.
Yeah. Okay. But let's talk. So, okay. Here's a couple things I would like to say. All right. Now, we have to say the first big achievement of today that cannot be understated. It's the top of the list. This is the first woman. Mm-hmm. The first. I don't know. How do you rank? She's also the first woman of color. I don't know which is more, but you can argue that. Whatever. Two great, amazing accomplishments for this country to have in the White House, vice president.
Yes, Kamala Harris, huge milestone.
Huge. We have our second man.
Yes, Doug. Yeah. Big ups to Doug. Shout out to Doug. Love
a gorgeous
Doug.
Jewish man.
We love a Jewish husband, don't we, folks?
That's right. And look, is there anything more apt than like the modern Jewish man taking the stay-at-home dude role? You know what I mean?
Look, he loves Pearl Jam. He has a multi-ethnic wife. Like, this is the modern Jewish male.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, you can't understate like Kamala Harris. Like,
yes.
That's it's. I don't know why. Whatever. I'll just say this because it's RGN. I'm not tied to anything, but like, I don't know why I think what's a bigger deal. Whatever. Maybe it's because Barack Obama already shattered that glass ceiling, and I guess can you say a man shattering a glass ceiling? Whatever. You guys know what I mean.
Broke that barrier.
That barrier. And also Michelle was so beloved. I just think I feel like people really struggle seeing women in power. I don't know why I feel like that's a bigger deal than color, but whatever. I don't know. I literally have no idea what I'm talking about.
Well, I mean, like, just look at Hillary's performance, even as an experienced politician in the election. Like, you can't argue that that's not something people think about, whether it's conscious or not.
Right. And I do think that, like, racism, we all kind of, even if you are a racist, we all agree that it's universally bad, But I do think sexism is kind of accepted,
Well, yeah.
Right? And also I think sexism is kind of confusing because there are differences between men and women, and major differences, biological differences, and like, whatever Dan, cultural differences.
How much are you lifting right now?
You could never.
I could never. I got a set of 12-pound weights behind me. It's not possible.
So I think society has a really tough time dealing with accepting, like, yes, that's different, but also it's not that none of these are unqualifying in any way.
Right. Exactly,
like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, so it doesn't make either one more fit. So, but I think people struggle with that, and I know that also from speaking to undecided voter here on this podcast who had kind of some controversial views on that, and I heard it multiple times about specifically people being frankly nervous about a woman having that much power. It kind of shocked me because I've always had a strong mother, like a strong female character. Character. That's I write a strong female voice in my house, like a matriarch, if you will, and I've had I think almost exclusively female bosses in my time. You know,
Right. Yeah.
so I think it's something I'm kind of naturally. I don't know. I'm blowing smoke on my ass. So anyway, a huge mega improvement. Small thing I'd also say, big improvement, is Kamala Harris posted a video when she found out, and she was on a jog. Did you see that?
Yeah, she was on a run. I did see that. She called Joe and said, "You're going to be the next president of the United States."
Yeah, we know Joe hits the Peloton. It's great to have active people in the White House.
Yeah, Jill Biden, they share a bike. They both ride.
Right.
I mean,
now let's also think about this in terms of while we're speaking about women.
Yeah.
Jill Biden
I love Jill
has
Biden.
announced that she will keep being a teacher if she's the first. She will keep teaching if she
community college,
right? If she's the first lady. That's I think unheard of. I don't actually know because I haven't looked that up, but I don't think to just keep your job. That's a huge fucking deal.
No modern first lady, I think, has ever done that.
Did Melania have a job? I'm just kidding.
Is she even the first lady? I don't know.
She has to be. She's got to be the worst first lady we've ever had, right? I mean,
I'm a big first lady enthusiast, and I got to tell you, she is at the bottom of the list. What has she done? She's done nothing. And you had such big shoes to fill with Michelle. Like, forget about it. Forget about it.
The only thing that Melania did was say she's going to stop bullying, but then her husband was the biggest bully, which is kind of a boring talking point. But also, in the end, the only time we heard her really speak, not reading off a teleprompter, was her saying kids in cages are better off.
And also fuck Christmas.
Right, and fuck Christmas. Right.
About Christmas.
So that's her legacy.
Yes.
I have a weird theory that just is whatever. It's kind of a sidebar. I think Barron Trump is going to turn out to be a good guy.
You know what? I wouldn't doubt. I mean, it's definitely possible because
of that generation.
Imagine the generation and like the hatred, and also like that weird picture of him like kissing his mom on the lips or whatever. Like, that's a lot of ridicule to endure and to grow up with. Like, who knows? Maybe
I'm gonna say this on the record now. I predict Barron Trump to be the president of the Democratic Party one day.
Maybe not the Democratic.
I think.
Maybe
the thing about Barron Trump is I do believe we'll see generationally. I don't think I think he's going to be too. Look, I don't know why I'm talking about this kid. Good for this kid, but I just have this prediction that he's not going to be able to avoid the culture of his generation.
Right.
And and his dad's a dinosaur in terms of his beliefs. He's like, one of these Mitch McConnells, these guys, Lindsey Graham, these guys are hanging on by a thread with these archaic beliefs,
Well, if Barron ever gets released into the wild, like do a semester at NYU and see what happens. Like,
Oh yeah, what's gonna happen. He's gonna have his liberal girlfriend, and you know how this is gonna go. I wish that kid well. That had to be a tough 4 years for that kid. Honestly, like I'm showing some empathy for that kid. That had to be a really fucking shitty 4 years, right?
He's probably got like no friends.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, come on.
No dog, no friends. Your parents hate each other. Like, your mom is like embarrassed by your dad. Like,
I hope that kid. Yeah, I hope he should go hang out with Sasha and Malia or something. And
do you think Donald and Melania will stay married like forever?
Oh, I mean, I was thinking about that also. I believe Melania will at some point write a tell-all book, and
like what's next for her?
He's gonna start going his descent because, man, I was trying to celebrate all this good stuff. Okay,
I mean, we will. We have still time to celebrate.
I wanted to celebrate this good stuff, but fuck it, we're distracted a little bit. We'll get back into the positive. But I believe that Donald Trump will have a descent into the far reaches of the right, And we'll see if she's willing to really go along with him there. He's going to
Yeah.
start a network that makes Fox News look like MSNBC, and it's going to be really interesting. I also, well, while we're here, I also
Mhm.
think Trump's going to quit before January 20th. That's also my
Oh, I
prediction.
actually predicted this also.
Yeah.
Yes, that he'll resign and just let Pence carry out the next 3 months.
Yeah, he's not. He's not. That's he should go like this election was stolen from me. Like
I'm done.
and then he'll go down the real conspiracy route, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
some people will follow him there, and then he'll walk away as like the
Martyr of
the
the
crowned uncrowned king,
yeah.
because if he follows the process, if he gives it any actual dignity,
Yep.
then he's gonna lose
Mhm.
fair and square.
Mhm.
So that's how I expected that, is that that's how he's going to do it. And he has no honor to. That would be tough for anybody. Like, it was probably tough for George H.W. Bush, where he
Right.
lost to Bill Clinton on re-election, and then
Yeah.
had to do the job for 3 more months, knowing you're handing it off. That has to be hard for anybody, regardless if you're Trump. You know,
Right.
that has to
Right.
feel. That's like knowing you got fired, but you have to keep working.
You failed. No, they
Right.
didn't want you back for another 4 years.
And so someone like Donald Trump, he's not going to be able to handle this. So anyway, that's the thing.
No.
All right, back to celebration. Okay, so that's
Yes.
a big celebration for women,
Yes.
and that
And fitness people.
fitness people. I also think this is a huge win for ageism in this country.
Yes, I was just talking about this too.
77 years old with modern medicine. I'm sorry, people, was not old. Is not old. And my wife's grandfather's 97 years old. I can get on the phone with him, and he's sharp as a fucking tack.
Yeah.
Cut the fuck out of this ageism. I cannot stand this. Be like, he's gonna die and this, that. Like, look, if he's saying this like a joke, but I think people legitimately were like, look, he's a corpse. Blah blah blah. If you saw Joe Biden, he's not a corpse.
Right. He's not a corpse. And also, let's just think about like life expectancy in 2020. Like your presidents back in the day, they were, relatively like middle aged, maybe, but they weren't expected to live that much longer. Like 77 is not that old. His mind is as sharp as a tack. Like, it's not, and like Trump's the other next oldest president. So he's the
Right.
one who's leading this whole Sleepy Joe argument. It doesn't make any sense. It holds no water.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I just think, yeah. I mean, I think we really need to adjust like our thoughts on age here. Now, I mean, the slip ups for Joe Biden were really overstated in the media.
I
mean,
know.
and that was by design. I mean, it's literally
Yeah.
perpetuated by foreign governments, and so
Mhm.
it is what it is. But I just want to say, like, listen, we cannot dismiss. We need to give people like integrity. We cannot dismiss people for their age constantly in modern
Yeah,
society.
I know.
It actually really bothers me.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Okay. So here's my other one, and I bet I'm going to be the only one to say this. Okay.
Okay, let's hear it.
And there's a reason.
Yeah.
This is a huge win for education in this country. Okay.
Yeah.
Joe Biden went to
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. Joe Biden. Joe Biden went to University of Delaware, my school. I went to University of Delaware. I think we should be upgraded to an Ivy League tomorrow.
Yeah.
But no. But honestly, seriously, he went to state school. Then he went to he got his JD at Syracuse University. First modern president to not go to Ivy League schools. Ivy League. We need to address the schooling systems in this country. You don't need to go to Ivy League colleges and go broke. You don't need to go to these like $50,000 a semester private schools. We're seeing that the value of that has been diminished. But also, like, if you can't afford to go to one of these expensive ass private schools,
Yeah.
I know people who've gotten into Ivy Leagues and don't go because they can't afford it. They're like, I'm not sure it's worth it to spend all that money, take out all these huge loans. We need to value the state educations. And I think that seeing a president who is extremely capable, went to state school. Some of the smartest people I know went to state schools because their family were like, this cost me $5,000 a semester, not 50
Right.
grand.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's something we need. The value of college has went down. It's more of just understood. Uber drivers, I bet, I don't know what the percentage is. A high percentage of them in LA have college degrees. So,
No doubt. No
right.
doubt.
And also,
Well, and not only that, but Jill is an educator.
Jill's an
So
educator.
she teaches community college. So it's like, that's huge.
Right. And I feel like, okay, not to mention, these Ivy League schools are corrupt.
Yeah. Well,
Donald
I
Trump.
worked at one for 8 years. So
Ooh, and
At
can you
Penn.
speak to the corruption or no? I mean, I don't know
I
if you
can
saw that
hint at
directly.
it. I can hint at.
But
Little bit.
Donald Trump got into UPenn. You don't need to be. You can tell he's not smart enough to go to UPenn. Okay, I know
No,
he's.
no,
And we
definitely
know he
not.
cheated. Look at what happened with Lori Loughlin, right? And her
Mhm.
kids cheating to get them into schools. These schools are paid for play, and
Yeah,
so
it's nepotism because like there's this whole legacy student discussion. Every year it comes around like this person's a legacy candidate. They're coming in to interview. Like it gives you a leg up.
right. So I actually think this is a big win, and I hope this is something that Biden talks about. I actually
Yeah.
believe it because I think we need to value our. The price of your education.
Well,
Should
UDEL
not-
is on the map now.
Yeah, I know. UDEL on the map. I actually texted my friends. Let's see. I think they just answered me. My buddy said, I think your promotion of Biden on Instagram really moved the needle.
I think so too.
And my friend said, imagine how awesome the ground floor would be tonight, which was a bar we used to go to in college that's closed down.
Rest in peace. Rest in power.
Yeah. So the other thing, okay, so I think those are the big wins that I see.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and there's more because this is a big win for science. Okay.
The
Okay.
planet.
So the other thing about Donald Trump's legacy, Erin, is
Mhm.
like, I think people are like, he tore down our institutions, integrity, blah, blah, blah. Not in 4 years. That's not going to happen. As a matter of fact, what he did was show us that a lot of our institutions work. You know?
That they matter. Yeah.
There were Republican elected officials looking over these elections saying it was counted fair. You know? And,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of this is still working. Are there problems? Yes. Completely. But also, sometimes you need a blip on the radar to remind you how fickle and how fragile this all really can be.
Right. Look
And
at
so
the
I
postal service.
Right.
All it took was just 1 week, and then it was like, yeah, this sucks. You can't stop this.
I know. And so I think that Trump getting 1 4-year election, like 1 4-year term, and us saying, hey, we tried this guy out. We took some stuff for granted, but America said no ultimately. I actually think will be a good thing, in a weird way.
Yeah.
Well, there will be negative fallout. Listen, there always is. There's going to be bad actors. There always are. But
Mhm.
I do think, like, our institutions, to me, are still strong. I think people are more patriotic than ever because they cared. Look how many people came out to vote because they cared.
Right. Well, and like, I don't know, like you take America for granted when everything is great,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yes.
but I told Mike today, I was like, I love America. Like, I've left the country, I've lived abroad, and while I was gone, all I could think was, I can't wait to get back to America. Like, I
Yeah.
love it here. And it's a shame that, Donald Trump, his 4-year term was like what it took to show you, like, oh, this is the best place.
Absolutely. It's the
planet to
fucking
live.
Pina Colada song.
Yes.
Rupert Holmes' Escape. It's, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, you were tired.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, maybe this isn't working. Blah, 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 blah. And then you took a break. You secretly put out a classified ad.
And who responds? The United States
United
of America.
States of America.
It was him. It was America all along.
No podcasts out there are comparing Trump's presidency to Escape by Rupert Holmes in parentheses,
The
the Pina Colada song.
Mhm. Yes. It was
We're
my
tired
own
of our
lovely
country.
country.
We've been together too long, like a worn out recording of our favorite song, which was
Hmm.
God Bless America,
Right.
right?
The national anthem.
But then we sat down to meet our date, which was going to be this new country. We're going to, right, make
Uh-huh.
this new country. And then oh my God, look who walked
It
in.
was my own lovely country.
Yeah.
And I
I,
said, "Oh, it's you."
yeah. Yeah.
It's a
And then
beautiful
you
thing.
just, yeah. I didn't know that you loved, I don't know, Coors Light. What, I don't know. What's
I didn't
American drink?
know. Yeah.
Budweiser. Anyway, we nailed it.
Mountain Dew Code Red.
Look, the last thing we'll say here, Erin, and we'll go.
Yeah.
We'll go celebrate.
Okay.
They're celebrating
Yay.
here. I drove up here, was talking my horn. People had signs said "You're fired" in the streets.
Yes. Yeah. I got to get out in the streets. I came down from the mountaintop today just for this. Yeah.
I know. Everyone say you're fired. It's great. Man, pay attention. If you're someone who watches Fox News, is what I'll say. If you think Fox News is not as bad as they say, okay. Now look, during the day, it's fine. It's not great, but it's fine. During the day, they report the news. But prime time, watch these guys now. Watch the true colors. Put them on for a little bit. I'm even encouraging you, put it on. Watch Hannity a little bit. Watch Tucker Carlson a little bit. Watch Laura Ingraham a little bit. These people are showing their true colors. They're lying to you blatantly now. They are lying. And don't let these fuckers off the hook. Don't let them jump ship in a couple weeks. A week from now, they go, actually, it's clear he won. Watch what they're doing. They're putting on completely unverified poll watchers, lying, not mentioning that poll watchers are not the same thing as the poll. A poll watcher is different than there's representatives from the Republican and Democratic Party in there who are actually in there the whole time.
Right.
This is stuff's being thrown out of court as we speak. Watch these people, hold them accountable, okay?
Yes.
Don't let Bill Barr in 2 years from now be someone that you take information from when he's a pundit on Fox News.
Yeah, remember this.
I'll give you someone to look out for. Bernie Kerik, okay? Look him up. He was the police commissioner in New York City. He's on Fox News all the time telling you about law and order. He went to fucking jail for being corrupt. He was okay.
That's the guy you want info from.
Right. Look up. Google people you're getting information from. You can look up Chris Cuomo. Google him. He had a stupid moment where he got called a Fredo and he acted like an idiot. He got caught jogging with no mask on. This stuff is mild, and I'm not defending CNN as a channel, but we're talking about this is mild compared to the actual criminals. They're actual criminals. They literally have what's his name? Is a correspondent on Fox News. Mark Furman.
Oh my God. Confirmed racist.
Yeah. I'm just saying, be wary. Look, we live in the time you have to get your news responsibly, but right now, look at those guys. If you're a Tucker watcher, you're a Hannity, you got someone in your family who goes like, they actually have some pretty good ideas, blah, blah, blah. Go watch these guys be so reckless must have such a low care for human life right now because there are crowds of people celebrating right now, and easily someone could come with an AK-47 and mow these crowds down. You know what I'm saying? If they want to, from this rhetoric. So I'm just saying, as my last thing.
Crowd outside, by the way.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna go. We're gonna go. Yeah. I want to end on a positive note because that was like more fear mongering. I'm not fear mongering. I'm just saying. Look up. You have the beauty of today's day and age is you have your computer in front of you while you're watching something. Fact check it in real time. Fact check what you hear in real time, right?
Yes.
Well, like for example, when they had that all those doctors came out, those fake doctors who said that COVID's not real.
Yeah.
Google that doctor. You'd see that she's into witch sperm or whatever, right?
Right. Demon sperm.
Anyway, big day for Joe Biden because we can all rest easy in this country. Now, we're going to have big hurdles, obviously.
A lot of work to do.
But at the same time, you have a guy in the White House who's going to take climate change seriously. Who's not doesn't see everything in isolation. That climate change and the pandemic are directly tied. The economy and the climate change are directly. He's
already working on the pandemic. Before he even won the election.
Yes.
He's briefing on COVID. He's going to help us finally.
Unbelievable. And also, not a socialist by any means. Look his record up. Some people, like Zahan Khan, who we had on the podcast last week, wish he was socialist. They wish he had any kind of socialism in him. But we have a tough road ahead of us. The Republican Party, they got work to do. How does this guy become their representative of conservative ideals? I don't know. And the Democrat Party, how are they losing seats like this? There's a big split in the House where the Nancy Pelosi centrist kind of candidates versus the squad, these younger, more left candidates, the Bernie Sanders style. And so we have a lot of division in this country. We're changing, and the electorate is changing. So politicians will change to the electorate. It's going to be extremely interesting where we go. But in the meantime, what we can hope is that we're going to have a science-based plan for COVID. And that's the only thing we should care about right now. Science first. That's it. Science, not America first. Science first. America is great. We love America. But we don't love America more than we can't just love the concept of America more than we like science. Because science doesn't give a fuck about.
I know. We gotta get through this COVID thing first.
This is an absolute great day, an historic day for America. Yay. Joe Biden will be addressing the nation at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as Trump tries to ignore, he's done it for 4 years, ignore precedents and not transfer power peacefully and do this. He's looking like a joke to everybody. More and more people are jumping ship.
People are distancing themselves. His biggest supporters, his staff, people are already backing away and looking for new jobs. It's enough.
And Mark Meadows got COVID, just to top it off. The guy who, when they asked him to keep his mask on, he said, "I'm not doing the interview if I have to keep the mask on." Walked away.
Okay.
Anyway, who cares? Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Jill Biden. What's his name? The Jew guy?
Doug Emhoff.
Doug. This is the only one I don't know. The Jewish man.
Doug Emhoff. Big Doug. Beautiful Jill. We got love back in the White House. Dogs back in the White House. Decency. All the things.
Decency. Be on the decent side of history, not the right or left. Whatever. Not the right. You don't want to be on the right side of history. Just be on the decent side. Be on the humane side of history.
Absolutely.
Let's reunite these kids at the border with their parents. Let's just fucking be America. Lead by example. Right. John McCain, who's a Republican that I respected a lot, said America is the greatest force for good in the history of time. That I do believe. And I also believe that he also said that he who was tortured, says that we don't torture in the United States of America, right? Because we hold ourselves to a higher standard. And we have to think about, what does it mean to be America? It means we lead by example, and that's on climate change, and that's on science, and this is exciting. Joe Biden for president. Yeah. He already is
Joe
the president.
Biden, new president.
Everybody,
Yay.
Thanks for listening.
Yay.
We'll come back. We'll be back next week. RGN will hit the mailbag. Send us emails, regularguynews@gmail.com. And, hey, go celebrate or go reevaluate yourself. And everybody, USA, baby.